1995 was an interesting time for heavy metal. Grunge had peaked, alternative rock was dominating the airwaves, and many of the 80s metal giants were struggling to adapt. Metallica had gone through the big transformation with Load just around the corner. Megadeth were heading into a more radio-friendly direction with Euthanasia, and Black Sabbath's legacy seemed more distant than ever. Then came Ozzmosis, released on October 24th, 1995. Ozzy Osbourne's seventh studio album arrived at a critical time in his career. After decades of heavy touring, countless controversies, and an on-again, off-again relationship with Black Sabbath, Ozzy had actually retired. At least that's what everyone thought. His 1992 No More Tears tour was supported and supposed to be his farewell, even called the No More Tours Tour. But as we all know, Ozzy doesn't stay down for long. By 1995, he was back, refreshed, recharged, and ready to prove that he still had something to say. The result was Ozzmosis, an album that fused classic Ozzy heaviness with a darker, more modern production style. It wasn't just a comeback, it was a statement. The Ozzmosis lineup was both new and familiar. Zakk Wylde was back on the guitar after sitting out No More Tears touring cycle. His signature mix of Southern blues and Metallica riffing gave the album its backbone, but this time Ozzy surrounded himself with some serious musical firepower. On bass, you had Geezer Butler, his old Black Sabbath bandmate. The reunion marked the first time Ozzy and Geezer had worked together on a studio album since Never Say Die in 1978. That connection alone added special weight to the album, almost like a full circle moment. Behind the drums was Dean Castronovo, who would later play with Journey and Revolution Saints. On keyboards and production duties, Ozzy brought in Michael Beinhorn, known for his work with Soundgarden and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. His touch gave the record a thick, almost industrial tone that set it apart from anything Ozzy had done before. And of course, Ozzmosis was the first Ozzy album released under Epic Records after his long run with CBS. Everything about this album felt like a reboot, darker, more introspective, and yet unmistakably Ozzy. Right from the opening notes of Perry Mason, Ozzmosis makes its intentions clear. This isn't the wild, cackling madman of the 80s. This is more mature, almost tortured version of Ozzy, reflecting on fame, sin, and his own place in a changing musical world. The album's production is thick, almost suffocating at times, with layers of guitar, haunting keyboards, and Ozzy's unmistakable voice cutting through like a ghost from another era. It's moody, heavy, and deeply emotional, a mix of introspection and bombast that could only come from someone who's been through everything Ozzy had been up to that point. Let's start with that opening track, Perry Mason. The song was an instant classic. From Zakk Wylde's haunting guitar intro to that massive chorus, it's pure Ozzy magic. The lyrics, co-written with Wylde and John Purdell, have a strange, almost theatrical quality. Ozzy invokes the name of the famous TV lawyer Perry Mason as a metaphor for judgment and truth, as if he's standing on trial for his life, asking, who can we get on the case? There's paranoia, guilt, and that classic Ozzy self-reflection all rolled into one. The line, who can we get on the case? We need Perry Mason, isn't just a fun lyric. It's like Ozzy asking for redemption, for someone to defend his legacy after all the chaos. Musically, Perry Mason sets the tone for the entire album, modern production, heavy riffing, and a cinematic atmosphere. The second track, I Just Want You, shifts gears. This one's a ballad, but not in the typical love song sense. It's dark, desperate, and filled with emotional weight. Ozzy's vocal delivery feels raw and vulnerable. The song's arrangement is simple, mostly driven by a pounding drum beat and Wylde's restrained guitar work. But it's Ozzy's performance that makes it powerful. The lyrics talk about love stripped of all material things, no religion, no possessions, just you and I. It's one of the most human songs, showing the emotional side of the Prince of Darkness. Then there's Thunder Underground. This track feels like a callback to Sabbath, heavy, ominous, and slow burning. Geezer Butler's influence is unmistakable here. The bass is thick, growling, and it gives the song that doomy weight that fans have been missing. The song's theme is about defiance, standing firm against critics and those who doubt you. It's Ozzy saying, I'm still here, I've outlasted everyone. The line, your opinions are your own and not mine, feel like a direct message to anyone who ever wrote him off. Musically, it's one of the album's heaviest moments. Zakk Wylde's guitar tone is massive, filled with pinch harmonics and sludge-like riffs. It's not just a song, it's a statement of survival. Now, one of the most interesting and misunderstood songs on the album is My Little Man. At first glance, it seems like a typical ballad, but there's something deeper going on here. The song was co-written with Steve Vai, one of the few tracks in Ozzy's catalog that features Steve Vai's input. The combination of Ozzy's vulnerability and Vai's melodic sense make it stand out. Lyrically, My Little Man is believed to be about Ozzy's son Jack. The lyrics talk about guidance, mistakes, and fear of passing one's own flaws. Don't take the world on your shoulders, my little man. It's tender but tragic. Ozzy pleading with his son not to follow the same self-destructive path that he did. There's no screaming or darkness here. It's heartfelt, almost fatherly, and it gives the album a rare sense of warmth amidst the chaos. One of the album's most emotional tracks, See You on the Other Side, feels like Ozzy's writing his own eulogy. The song was written in memory of a close friend who had passed away, but it resonates much more deeply than that. It's about mortality, loss, and the hope of reunion beyond death. In many ways, it predicted the kind of reflective tone Ozzy would return 2 decades later with albums like Ordinary Man and Patient Number 9. Zakk Wylde's solo here is stunning, melodic, soulful, and restrained. The song that shows Ozzy's ability to tap into something universal beyond the theatrics of metal. Then there's Aimee, tucked near the end of the album. The song doesn't get much attention, but it's quietly one of Ozzy's most personal moments. The title refers to his daughter Aimee, who was born in 1983. Unlike the rest of his children, Aimee chose to stay out of the spotlight, avoiding the family's later reality show, The Osbournes. The lyrics feel like a heartfelt message from a father trying to connect. Don't go away, I'm trying to say I'm sorry. It's deeply human, Ozzy expressing regret and love in the same breath. This track also closes the album on an unexpectedly emotional note. After all the heaviness, all the darkness, Ozzmosis ends with something quiet and sincere. Throughout Ozzmosis, there's an undercurrent of reflection. Ozzy looking back at his life, his fame and his failures. This isn't the wild man of Blizzard of Oz or Diary of a Madman. It's someone older, wiser, and maybe a bit haunted by everything that came before. Songs like Tomorrow and Old LA Tonight also carry that weary, introspective feel. The album feels like Ozzy confronting his mortality, not in a dramatic way, but with a sense of acceptance. The production gives it a moody atmosphere, thick guitars, layered keyboards, and a slightly industrial edge that feels very mid-90s. Some fans at the time thought it sounded too polished, but looking back now, that production gives it a unique identity. When Ozzmosis came out, it was a commercial success. It hit the top 5 on the Billboard charts and eventually went double platinum. Critics were mixed. Some praised his darker tone, while others missed the raw energy of his earlier albums. But time has been kind to this record. Listening to it today, 30 years later, it feels like a bridge between the classic Ozzy of the 80s and the introspective elder statesman we'd hear on albums like Down to Earth and Ordinary Man. It's also the last great collaboration between Ozzy and Zakk Wylde before their long break. You can hear the chemistry in every riff, every solo. So, after 30 years, how does Ozzmosis hold up? I would say, honestly, surprisingly well. It might not have the instant hooks of Blizzard of Oz or the rawness of Bark of the Moon. It captures something far more interesting, a moment of reinvention. It's Ozzy at an injunction between youth and age, chaos and clarity, madness and melancholy. Songwriting is strong, the performances are top-notch, and thematically, it's one of his most honest albums. Tracks like Perry Mason and See You on the Other Side remain staples for a reason. They're timeless. And deeper cuts like My Little Man and Aimee reveal the heart beneath the darkness. If No More Tears was Ozzy's last great epic, Ozzmosis was his introspective aftershock. The sound of a man still haunted by his past, but refusing to give up. 30 years later, it still stands tall as one of the most emotionally complex albums in his entire catalog. So that's Ozzmosis. 30 years later, what do you think? Does it deserve more credit in Ozzy's discography, or does it get overshadowed by the classics? Let me know in the comments. Check out my video on Ozzy in the 90s where I talk about some of the other things he did in that decade. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe. If you have not already, I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.